Welcome back to Investing with Confidence. I am your host, Joshua David, having a good time talking about the financial markets, how they work, but how us, as the average investor, can participate with these phenomenal markets. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, and also check out Investing with Confidence on YouTube. Now, as we get into this next segment, I want to continue this discussion about, I guess, the difference between knowledge and education, but the difference in sources. Where are you getting that knowledge from?
Right.
What type of bias do they have, right? And I want to talk about the difference between some of those sources that you had mentioned earlier, between them and the Online Trading Academy, which is strictly education, teaching people the skills and techniques which are designed to teach you to make better investing decisions.
Yeah, the real difference is the difference between accessing knowledge or obtaining knowledge and education, because they're two different things. Knowledge is one thing; it's the starting point of education. But what the Online Trading Academy does is to take that several steps beyond just the knowledge point, because you can have all the knowledge in the world about a particular subject, but unless you have actually used that knowledge, unless you know how to use it, when to use it, in other words, when you have the skills to use it, that's when it becomes helpful. But knowledge alone is really of no value. So what OTA, Online Trading Academy, does is to really work on the skill portion of it. But it's more than that. It's also providing mentoring. It's providing tools and resources that help you to simplify your activities and then help you make better investment decisions. And it's also support. Like if you have a car. If you have a car and it breaks down, what do? You take it to a service department and they fix it. Well, it's kind of what OTA does. They have a bricks and mortar location where people can come. If they have issues or problems, those you want to get taken care of before they become part of your habit, part of your routine in making your decisions. So that's available. That support part of it, that's really important. And then just making sure that you always have answers to issues, answers to questions that you have. So there's a big difference between education and knowledge. And unfortunately, for most people that are in the market, the education they have been given really is geared towards that long-term strategy, even though their needs may be short-term. If you have emergencies, maybe you have a child or grandchild you want to help through college, you can't wait 20 or 30 years to access money to do that. You need that money now, but most of the advisors out there are kind of bypassing that important part of your financial world, which is that short-term kind of accumulation phase that you go through.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because, I mean, some people need an advisor. Some people need a broker to make the decisions for them because they're just not able to do that, which is fine. There's a purpose for that. But if people are, I mean, do you think, well, how do I word this right? I mean, do you think people are being not misled, but put in things that is not in their best interest, is maybe in their broker's best interest? Is that possible?
Well, certainly it's possible. And the problem is when you are working with someone that has several hundred clients, it's pretty hard for them to devote enough time to you specifically. So typically what happens is people are put into an investment grouping with maybe hundreds or thousands of other people. One of them that comes to mind, of course, are mutual funds.
Yeah.
There could be thousands of people that are in the same mutual fund, and maybe they all have different objectives, different goals. So for you to get the best potential results from these financial markets, you have the opportunity to do that yourself. You can do this in a way where you are managing your assets and you are taking not only control of them, but you're paying attention to them on a daily basis or weekly basis. You can do this in a way that allows you to use the same tools and the same strategies that what we call smart money uses. Those are the big firms, the big investment firms, the hedge fund managers. They're not just putting together long-term portfolios. They're looking at short-term bottom line boosting kinds of returns. And they use things that they are not necessarily putting their clients into, but you have access to them. with high-speed computers now, or high-speed internet, and the sophisticated trading platforms, we have advantages really over a lot of the big firms because we can act quicker and we can pay attention to our assets, our portfolios on a more consistent basis.
Yeah, and just think about this, Al, too. Do you think there's a lot of people, a lot of do-it-yourselfers out there? A lot of people like to do their own home improvements,
Sure.
cut their own grass. A lot of people love doing that. You got to put those lines the right way. You got to make those look nice, right? Do-it-yourselfers as far as maybe some projects in the yard, right? Now, those same do-it-yourselfers are relying on somebody else to manage their retirements.
Mm-hmm.
But if that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, it's not because they don't want to. It's just because they just don't know how. So they feel that's the right thing to do. But think about it this way: if you had the education, if you learned from a proper education facility that guided you to learn the skills, to gain the confidence to trade and invest, do you think you build them to make your own decisions? Probably. But it takes some skills, and it starts with knowledge. Then it takes some skills. And Al, I want to continue this discussion about where are you getting your knowledge from? Where are you getting your education from? But some of the things that are impacting people's retirement decisions, and that's fees, right?
Sure.
Now, when you manage things yourself, when we're talking about managing, that's making your own decisions in your retirement accounts, which you already are anyway.
Right.
I think you say this every week, you have the opportunity to make the decisions for someone else to get paid to do, right? So what are some of those negative effect of fees? But why are people being so conditioned to actually think it's low?
Well, first of all, let's talk about education here again. The reason that there's a lot of people that participate in the markets, either through an investment account or through their retirement accounts. But there are a lot of people that don't participate or don't think they can participate. Well, think about it. Where do you get your financial education? Did you get it in high school? Did you get it in college? No, the answer is no in both cases. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people in this country that went through high school and college that have no idea why the market even exists. They look at it as a casino. They look at this as gambling, and that the market is like a casino.
They're being told that as well.
They're being conditioned that way, and they're being conditioned to believe that they can't do it on their own. They need help. They need a financial advisor. They need a so-called professional to do this for them.
Not to interrupt you, which I just did.
Yes, you did.
I wanted to have our listeners understand. Now, think about this. What are you being conditioned? I asked this question earlier. What is the average rate of return that a broker is going to tell people? Probably around 6 to 8, maybe 10%. Mm-hmm. What is the average fee they're going to tell you? Oh, maybe, and I'll give our listeners a couple seconds to say that. Probably, 0.25%, 0.75%, up to 2%. Oh, it's just a small management fee, right? There's a lot of fees that they don't disclose as well, isn't there?
Well, there are, but I think people, even if you look at let's just say 2%, a lot of people look at that as not being a big deal. But what you fail to remember is that every dollar that's no longer in your account is no longer compounding for you. And that's the real damage. 2%, if you're starting, say, in your 20s and you invest for 40 years into a retirement account, fees as low as 2% can take several $100,000 away from you, maybe 40, 50% or more of what you
hundreds
could
of
have.
Thousands.
That's hundreds of thousands of dollars.
And that's missed opportunity.
Well, it's missed opportunity. And once you realize what that impact has been, it may be too late. When you're 65 or 70, you don't get a do-over in life. What you have worked 30 or 40 or more years for, that may be what you have to rely on for possibly another 30 or 40 years. And if it's not enough, then what do you do? Are you planning on retiring? When do you plan on retiring? And what's your plan when you retire? Because one of the things that is gone that you have relied on all of your working years is the income from your job.
But hey, just to interrupt you again, which I did it twice now.
This is twice.
What if our listeners are 60, 65? Does it make sense to continue to pay that fee?
Well, no, and that's a great point, because a lot of people, when they retire, leave their money in a company-sponsored 401k or 403b, whatever that,
and that's
that retirement
bucket
plan
with
is.
a hole in it.
It's a bucket with a hole in it. Yeah, look at it. This is a great way to look at it. Look at your bucket, your retirement money in a bucket. And if there's a hole in the bottom of the bucket and money is leaking out, isn't that going to have an impact on what you have to live on? That's fees. Fees are being taken out, even though you're making the investment decisions in those accounts. And the decisions that you make are decisions on investments that are probably not the most beneficial. In many cases, they're mediocre returns. Mutual funds, 90% of them underperform the index that they're supposed to perform with. But if you want to take control of your own assets, which again you already are doing, you're already making the investment decisions in your 401ks, 403bs, why not transfer that money when you leave a company into a self-directed IRA? A lot of our students do that. Now you've eliminated the fees. They're no longer, leaking out that hole in the bottom of the bucket. It's like you've taken, a piece of tape and a piece of duct tape and you've covered that hole. Now, the other potential problem is if the bottom of that bucket falls out. Let's say we go through a bear market and the market is down, 40, 50, 60%. That can have another huge impact on your ability to live the lifestyle you want in retirement. And you have been conditioned to believe that the market's always going to come back. So don't worry about corrections. But if you're 65 or 70, and all of a sudden you see 40, 50, 60% of what you have worked for taken away, and it may take 15 or 20 years to get that back, that's not a very enjoyable thought to have. The impact, whatever the market does, the year you retire, the next year, couple of years, is going to really determine how you can live your investment life or your retirement lifestyle. So are there ways of preventing those losses, those holes in the bucket? Yeah, number one, you self-direct so you don't have the fees. And number two, in a self-directed IRA or just in a regular investment account, you have many choices, some of which will benefit or have the potential to benefit when the market's going down. When the market's sideways, you also have the ability to have basically an insurance policy on that portfolio. So that big hole is not there.
Yeah, and now just to kind of paint a picture on this, you have what, 2 kids, 3?
Three,
right? And then one of the things that you want to do, and I have one as well. You want to raise a child in a positive home, right?
Sure.
You want to have positive reinforcement, encourage them to do good things so you can set them up to succeed, right? Well, what if that child was in a negative home and had no positive reinforcement, was set up to fail? That's kind of like having managed money. Because think about this. If you're paying fees, that's almost a setup to fail because you're just getting money taken out of that. If you are being put into underperforming funds on purpose, that's being set up to fail again. And then potentially ignored, right? Mm-hmm. How many times does your broker actually call you per year? Maybe once, if not ever, right? So I feel people are being set up to fail. And if you feel that way, if you feel like you're missing out on some of the things that are happening, some of these great opportunities, you might want to learn more about how to take more control of that and do that with confidence. Al, I want to continue this discussion about how we're being conditioned by the news, media, public, brokers, advisors, all that stuff. And nothing against the people, it's the actual industry. I want to talk about these other assets and why they're so great when people utilize them in short-term accounts and long-term accounts. We'll be right back.